Our next speaker is a guy that's here in Atlanta. He decided he needed to go to Florida. Then he decided he needed to come back to Georgia, and we're happy to have him. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Dave has to say. Thanks.
Oh my goodness. Hi, I'm Dave Anderson, and I am an alcoholic. Card carrying. I grew up in Maine. I'm sorry, I got down here as fast as I could. I absolutely detested the taste and the smell of alcohol. I could not understand why anybody would do that to their body. And when I joined the Army, I made up for lost time. And you know, I just drank to go along with folks. I didn't have any idea that I had a tolerance that allowed me to drink a whole lot. So I went to Vietnam, and then I got interested in all kinds of other ways to go sideways. And I did a lot of that. I got out of the Army. I was a cook in McDonald's in North Carolina. And I realized my high school dreams were not going to come true. Not being a cook in McDonald's. So I decided to join the Navy. And when I joined the Navy, I loved the Navy. I had a beard. I didn't have to shave it off. I could just keep it. I started flying again because I flew in the Army and I flew in the Navy. So I was I was good to go. But in '81, the Navy got real good at making marijuana charges stick. So it became a way to just snuff out a career if you got caught doing that. So I quit. I quit in '81. My sobriety date is July 25th, 1983. That's how long it took for my drinking to absolutely take over. The way I was raised was, my dad was an engineer, so he would come home, he would sit in his chair, Mom would call him for dinner, he'd go have dinner, sit in his chair, watch TV, and go to bed. Get up early in the morning and do the same thing. In other words, he had the emotional availability of a fence post. Dear old Dad was not there. And my mom, on the other hand, she had a pretty rough life when she was being raised, and she visited violence upon me, and a lot of it. I still don't like hairbrushes. So the thing is, between her and my dad, I had absolutely no idea what boundaries were. I didn't know what they were. I certainly didn't have any, and none were practiced on me. So the result of that is my drinking. I was a very violent person. When you're drinking, you're 10 feet tall, right? Unfortunately, I was violent to everyone, including my family. 1983, I just got too famous. I couldn't talk myself out of trouble. I'm still in the Navy. Got too famous, couldn't talk my way out of it. The Navy basically gave me a simple choice, either get sober or go home. And by this time, I was 10 years into my career. I knew I was going to make it a career because I had a son that I had to pay child support on. And if I'm going to start from working as a cook at McDonald's, that's not going to be very, so I knew in the Navy, in the military, I knew I could afford to do what I needed to do. So here's the deal. By the way, July 25th, 1983 is 36 years later from July 25th, 1947, when I was born. I came in keeping it real simple. I got my birthday, I got my anniversary. Yeah, my 36th birthday was. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but you know what the red and blue light show on the living room ceiling is? It's the cop car outside. And that was the last time I got to see that. They asked my wife, do you want to press charges? And for some unknown reason, she said no. I asked her later why, and she said, because I love you. It turns out that we were both doing the best we knew how with that. But, you know, my idea of love was what I saw in Hollywood, which is fake. My last drink was that evening. I had to go see the people I didn't want to see. You know, in the civilian world, I guess it's the EAP, but for in the Navy, it's the counselors. You got to go see the counselors, and I was sent to this guy, Pappy Burnham, and he was known to be just a walking hard ass. He's smaller than me, just a walking hard ass. And when I walked into his office, he took one look at me, and he got gentle. He just got gentle with me and said, you know, yeah, it looks like you need to get some help. So I went off and I auditioned for treatment. I had these three guys sitting there going, why should we send you to treatment? Well, because I got a career that I want to maintain, and I just want you to let me know I'm out of trouble and life will go on well, which is not what I said. What I accidentally said was the absolute truth, because when I get drunk, I hurt my family. So I went into, they said, okay, you can go to treatment. But first, you got to do you got to get this list signed. You got to go to AA for a while. So I went to AA in Millington, Tennessee, and the people there got my attention. They talked about themselves, and they talked about the kind of things I was doing, and they talked about it with authority. They knew what they were talking about. And when I got to the point, I would start looking around the room, and I'd look at this little old lady, and she would talk about being knee-walking, snot-slinging, commode-hugging drunk with authority. So I believed it. And when I came to understand, it took me a little while to clear the alcohol out of my brain, and I came to understand that I used to live life by three rules. Life sucks, God is inherently unfair, and this will never, ever change. Ever. A friend of mine told me later on that was a perfect description of despair. What do I know? I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm living my life to the best of my ability. My bicycle had a square wheel on the back. So what do you do when you get a rough ride? You pedal harder. I just do what I knew how to do. So the point that I'm trying to get to is that I was without a drink for 6 weeks. Then I went to treatment. 2 weeks into treatment, somebody asked me a question. I don't know how it is now, but when I was in treatment, you do what you got to do during the day, and then when everybody's supposed to be going to bed, a few of us go gather in the gay room, and that's where we have the best meeting of the whole day. We're just sitting there talking. Those of us that are really trying to get onto this idea of might want to get sober. And somebody asked me a question, and in answering that question, my moment of clarity arrived. And my understanding that I'm an alcoholic sounded like this. That was my moment of clarity arriving. Because I understood immediately from that point on, until about right now, that I was an alcoholic. And the focus for my life shifted 3 degrees. And now I understood why I was doing the things I was doing. I'm going to tell you the most humorous part of my drinking career, because this is the only one there is. The rest of it's not good. I figured out how to get a DUI from the back seat of a VW. And I got away with it. Because the judge looked at the officer and said, "Officer, you can only have 1 DUI per vehicle." So I got out of that DUI, and I got sent off to some counseling, which also started to get real, started to wake up something in my heart. Because, see, I had no idea what my heart was talking about. I came into this thing, and for a long time, when I showed up in AA, I was John by God Wayne. Come on, bring it on. Right on. But then, and here's how it happened for me: the power of the steps changing my life. Yep, it was. I'm in. You know that Lipton tea commercial? I was in. When I had that moment of clarity, I was in. I didn't know how to go on from there, but by God, I'm in the pool. The headline of my 5th step that I knew would eventually be dealt with became public knowledge at about 6 months sober. Oh shit. And the thing I did, which is why I'm still here today, the thing I did is instead of running, I ran to AA. I ran to a guy and I told him what was going on. He said, "You need to go over there and have coffee with Jack." And I didn't know this, but Jack's sponsor called him up and said, "You need to go have coffee with Dave." Okay. So this guy, Jack, shows up. Now, here's my first sponsor, Jack. Every time he shared, "I am Jack, and I'm an alcoholic, and will be every day for the rest of my life. And as long as I keep going to a meeting a day and give $1 a day, I might be okay." That was one word. He opened every share with that. So I kind of believed Jack. And he was my first sponsor. And he had to, because man, when I stopped drinking, the air tasted different. Would make sense. I'm not pouring booze down my throat every day. And I mean, it was just rare air that I was experiencing being sober. And so he started working with me with steps 1, 2, and 3 very quickly. I figured out step 3 pretty easy because I remembered when I was 7 that I had the faith of a child. I had no problems with God, with whatever they were. It was just no problem. I believed. So now that I'm 36, much wiser and sophisticated and shit, and this third step, though, make the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of I don't know what in the hell he is. I said, well, when I was 7, I didn't have any of that problem. So I said, in my heart, I'm going to be childlike. And that worked for me. It was my path. It worked for me. There was a time I had absolutely no questions and I was good to go, so I decided to just do that. My fourth step, it took me a while. It just took me a while because I have that layer that's just really tough to push through. And what I was having a problem with pushing through was my fingerprints. My fingerprints on my life. I was having a hard time coming to terms with that. So it took me a while to work my way through step 4. Step 5, the experience that I want to share with you on that is because I was eventually able to work my way through step 4 and just get it figured out. I love the 4 columns. I love the workshop here about the 4th step. Been there, and it was excellent. Absolutely excellent to take. You know, here's the deal. I got paperwork on the wall that says I'm really smart. I got paperwork in my drawer that says, no, you're not, Sparky. I'm trying to figure out how to do stuff. I get to this 5th step, and it just worked out very well. Because I had already had to deal with my headline. I'd already had to deal with the worst of me. So the 5th step from that was, it was okay, when I hit the 6th and the 7th, I'm going to have to skip around a bit because 40 years of sobriety. One of the things that I did when I did my 4th step is I did the fears, I did the resentments, and then I was done. I hope you notice that I have never done a 4th step on my sexual inventory. Didn't do it. Why? I don't know. I just didn't do it. The headline of my 5th step was sexual in nature. So when I got to that part, I just didn't do it. And I stayed that way. There you are. When I got to that part, I just moved on and I figured out how to work my way through 6 and 7. I figured out how to do an amends with 8 and 9. Here's a wonderful way to make amends, and this worked wonderfully, and I'll tie in a little bit. The way to make an amends. I was a counselor in the Navy. My last duty station, I was a counselor. I was so happy to get that duty station that I was going to go do that in Newport, Rhode Island. And when I told Jack, my sponsor, that I got orders, I'm going to go be a counselor. He said, I hope you don't get drunk. I'm like, what? What? And it turns out that those of us who wear double hats, it's dangerous to be listening to somebody else's crap all day and then think, I don't need to go to an AA meeting, I've been working it all day, right? No. So I did learn that process of how to separate that. One of the things I picked up on is how to do a 9th step. And it's easy. The 8th step is where all the hard work is. That's where John by God Wayne has to be laid bare. And I got to figure out why I need to do a 9th step. And I have to go through my way of forgiveness. And I have to get humble with my own self and realize, you know what? When I was doing all that, I was doing the best I knew how. I don't believe anybody gets up first thing in the morning and says, well, how am I going to screw up my life today? We wake up thinking, I'm going to figure out how to do the best I can today. So I was given this deal of how to do a 9-step. First thing I got to tell somebody is exactly what I did wrong. Tell them exactly. Don't mix any words, because it's good for them to hear me acknowledge what I did. Second thing I have to tell them is how I feel about doing that. When I look back on what I did, so how do I feel about doing that? About my fingerprints being on that action. The third thing I got to tell them is what I have learned about myself. This is the act of amends. Sitting there looking at somebody. I got to tell them what I learned about myself. And then I got to tell them my commitment to the future. Should this ever arise, any situation like this, should it ever come up, this is my commitment of what I will do, and I am sorry. I apologize. And that's worked really well for me. It's worked on a spot amends. Had to do one with my wife, and I remembered that little 4-step process, and I worked my way through it, and we arrived at peace. And that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. My wife is the one that saved my life when I was 14 years sober. We got together, and she's got 33 years, and I've got 40. I just can't believe I get to say that. That's just amazing. I'm working my way through my life, and I'm just living life to the best of my ability by working the step. I came here at 14 years sober. Holy crap. I brought my little sober skeleton here with what I already had on it, and the muscles that you guys helped put on my skeleton were amazing. And I decided I need to do this again. So I came back the following, but I went for the next 18 years, mostly twice a year, because you know what I get here? When I come back, I get more. And when I come back the third time, I get more. And I found out the first time, have no expectations, okay. The second time, I kind of know what's going to go on, and I was wide open for a whole lot of experiences. And the experiences that you guys have fed me at my time here at the Rock, just absolutely amazing. I'm in Florida, and I get caught again watching porn. And my wife says, I'm done. I'm out of here. Unless you get treatment. Well, okay. All the way back to when I joined in '83, I'll do whatever I need to do to get out of trouble. Okay. So I ended up finding my way into SA. And I've been with SA. So I find my way into SA. And they've got the exact same 12 steps. They changed one word. And it's the same 12 steps. So this time, there's a little white book they use. And in the white book, there's a phrase that talks about those of you who have experienced success in other programs need to do the steps as if you've never done them. So I did. And this time, when I got up to step 9, when I worked my way through step 9, I arrived at 34 years sober in SA, and I'm confused as hell. I'm comfortable because they use the 12 steps. Same 12 steps. How did I end up never knowing that I was a card-carrying member of another 12-step program? I eventually figured it out. It's because I am who I am. That's who I am. So when I got to the 9th step this time, what exactly did I do wrong with who? How do I feel about this? And I worked that 9th step. And for the first time in my life, all of it, I comprehended the word serenity. And I just get peace. I came to know peace. Because for me, it took that long. It took that long for my heart to get done. I can't thank you guys enough. You fill my heart. And I'm so glad to be here. Love you guys.